We are here today with Jono Bacon, who is a self-employed community building type consultant with a, let's say, a strong Linux and open source orientation. He was community guy for GitHub, but before that for XPRIZE, before that for an unknown company called Canonical. Something about Ubuntu's or something like that.
No one said of it. No one said of it.
So he's working a lot with our mutual friend Martin Mikos, who has HackerOne. So Jono, tell me, what's up? What's up in the Jono Bacon world?
It's been fun. I'll be honest with you. It's been a little nerve-wracking. Starting your own thing. For years, I think I've talked to you about this before. Like I used to consult on the side when I was at Canonical, and work with like primarily big companies who wanted to build communities either inside the companies or outside. And I worked with big companies because I didn't have as much time and they paid better. And I always had the dream of doing my own thing, but I was always terrified about whether I'd be able to get enough business for it because community growth and management strategy, all that kind of stuff is still somewhat new, and it's better known in certain industries, well known in technology and open source specifically, but outside of that, it's less well known. But I, decided to make the jump, and so far it's been great. I mean, plenty of business, having a great time, and the ability to kind of influence and play a role in lots of different companies. So the dream is real.
So you're eating. You don't seem to have your ribs showing,
I think my wife would say I'm probably eating a little too much.
So. I will leave that between the two of you, sir. I have my own wife for that one.
Oh my God, this country's got too much good food in it. Like when I lived in England, there's good food in England, but there's too much of it over here. I can't stop myself. I have a problem.
So you're planning a vacation to South Sudan? No?
No current plans.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate weight loss vacation. You heard it here first, folks. Business plan with a community. Hire Jono Bacon to build that community. No, wait, it's not technology. So what's going on with HackerOne? What are you guys up to?
So, like yourself, I've known Martin Mikos for a long time. He's a friend, and when I decided to move on from GitHub, I was thinking about what I wanted to do next and what was going to be the right thing. And I'd been flirting with the idea of doing this kind of community management strategy, developer workflow consultancy thing. And then when I announced it, Martin sent me an email and said, would love you to come and work with HackerOne. He joined as CEO when was it? It was about 6 or 8 months ago, something like that. So, and HackerOne as a company, for people watching this who aren't familiar with it, it's basically an organization that's got a platform where, if you've got a website or a mobile app or some other kind of product or service, you can run a bug bounty program. So, for example, Uber's has got a program on HackerOne, and then hackers are invited to go and hack on Uber's assets, and then they submit vulnerability reports, and then you have a conversation with the security team at Uber, and then if the report is approved, then invariably you get a payment. And there's people who make thousands of dollars out of this. So what fascinated me, and part of the reason why Martin went to HackerOne, was that I don't like the word disruptive, but I'm going to use it. Sorry, I'm going to be one of those people for a minute. But how open source really did disrupt software, like proprietary software. It created this incredible model in which people all over the world can work together in solving problems. So it broadens the surface area of what you can do.
Yes. And
that really maps quite neatly to security, where you could hire a team of 5 or 6 security researchers, but they'll only be able to do so much, and they'll only have so much awareness of current hacking methodologies and what you can do in that attack surface. So the idea of HackerOne is it kind of takes a somewhat open source approach to security, and I think it's brilliant, and particularly with so much, with people walking around the streets catching Pokemon. That's how digitally connected we are. I think we need more security focus. So,
okay, so you're going to have secure Pokemons, right? No.
You got to dream big, right?
Oh, I don't know. No, the funny thing is, now community and all that, Martin has always built these distributed companies. That's his strength. things that don't have a whole lot of people in one room or one building. And I remember he and I have been talking about this for years because as editor guy, I've always worked with a workforce that's all the way around the world. That's common. As a writer, the first people I started selling to consistently, I didn't meet for many months, and they were local.
Right.
Local. So it's normal. So he and I really started talking. We came away with something. Since you've been involved in a lot of community and professional stuff, what he and I both realized early on was the thing to do is to hire people who love what they're doing so much that you have to tell them to stop and take breaks.
Right. Yeah, I would agree that you want that kind of passion, and it reminds me of when I was at Canonical. There was I'm going to out him because he deserves to be outed. But there's a guy there called Sebastian Bashir, who very involved in the GNOME project for many years. Said 123 on IRC, and he would literally have to be asked to stop working. Like he'd be on IRC constantly, and he just because he was just so into Ubuntu and GNOME and bringing these two pieces together that he just loved every second of it. And I think lots of people are like that, and you want that, right? You want to build a company of really passionate people, but you also want to build a company of people who have a healthy balance, who take time with their families, who look after their bodies and all that kind of stuff. So
sustainable.
Yeah, because otherwise you just burn people out. And as we all know, burnout is a massive risk, and it happens to a lot of people. And a lot of people don't realize they're burning out when it happens. So I didn't realize when I burnt out. And once you've done it once, you know when it's happening.
When was that? Where were you working when you burned out?
I was at Canonical. I'd been at Canonical for about 2 years. And I remember it vividly because I was going around basically just treating people. I wasn't treating people badly. I was just grumpy with people. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy. And I knew something was up. And I think it was the combination of, I was in my dream job. I felt the weight of doing a good job there. And I was working constantly, and I wasn't back then. I mean, goodness gracious me. I ate so much McDonald's and KFC back then, they should give me shares in the company. I just had the worst diet imaginable. No exercise, lots of booze. So that combined with a job that's very busy, your body just runs out of energy. And I knew something was up, but I didn't know what it was. And then, I'd heard about burnout, and then I basically went to Ireland to hang out with a friend of mine for 4 days. Came back and felt, didn't take a laptop, felt reinvigorated.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why I talk quite a bit about it at conferences and stuff like that, is we have to be aware of it. And there's a great article called The Burnout Cycle that I'd encourage everyone here to watch or to read. I did a video for YouTube as well, you can watch as well, but everyone should be aware of the risks of it. So.
Well, my wife and I have found we live in Florida. We have found an island, a key, but not in the keys that are famous, that has no cellular service and no high-speed internet of any kind.
Wow.
And there are but it has great, I'm not going to say the name, but it has great scallops. It's sort of place where they have tacky, unair-conditioned restaurants where you go to the front and they unload the scallops off the back, fry them or saute them and put them on the plate.
That's great.
And then you eat them, and they're cheap. And they have a lot of mildly tacky, small, pleasant motels that supply bicycles and kayaks, and are dog friendly,
right?
And they tend to be the kind of places where people congregate at the fire pit at night.
Yeah, so, I love that.
But no communications.
It's one of the reasons why I won't wear a smartwatch. Like I own 2 smartwatches. I was very fortunate that Samsung gave me a couple of smartwatches, and I stuck them on my wrist. And I spent enough time, looking at this thing, let alone having it glued to my wrist. So at least when this is in my pocket, it's out of sight. I
will admit that I use my I have a really big cell phone, cheap but big, just like me, and I use it as a reader more than anything else. Library books. It's just I can carry a whole bunch of library books in a half-pound package.
Yeah.
Pocket, and it's also with the right software. I have a recumbent trike. That's a speedometer for my trike.
Right.
And with Pandora, it's also my stereo. Woo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it. I'm actually just waiting for the new. I'm waiting for the new Google phone or Nexus to come out because I had a Nexus 6, like the big, you know, big thing, and I love it. Like a lot of people don't like the big phones. I do because I spend so much time on it. But I dropped it on the floor and put a massive dent in the front of it. So now I'm on the backup phone. I'm waiting for the new one to come out. So,
well, this LG phone, which I don't love, you can buy one. I'm on Virgin Mobile. You can buy one, I believe, for $70. Wow. 5.5-inch screen. You buy it for $70 on Amazon, and it's pretty indestructible because I really should write an article called "Confessions of a Phone Dropper." Especially reading in bed. Quite often, one night out of 3, I find the thing on the floor.
Right.
When I wake up. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you can get though, because I bought. I went out to China about 3 weeks ago, and you know, a lot of people recommend you take a separate phone.
Okay.
And you take a burner phone or a burner laptop, and so I did that, and I went and bought a cheap phone, and it was like I think it's called a Samsung. I forget the name of it. It's Samsung Core something. And I tell you what, for a $70 phone, $60, $70 phone, it's a pretty good. I was asking because I was unaware of like what cheap phones are because I've usually buy like fairly more expensive phones because I use them a lot. So I was asking the guy like, does it have Wi-Fi? Does it have GPS?
Yes.
And he looked at me as if to say, are you 150 years old? Of course it has Wi-Fi and a GPS. So, yeah, you can get a lot for your money. So
I have a spare phone that I don't need anymore because I have others, but I got it. First signed up with Virgin in case I lost one. Because on their system you can change phones online in like 2 minutes.
Right.
So I got a $20 phone. And, you know, it's a piece of junk by current cell phone standards. But, you know, it has more computing power than the entire U.S. government had when I graduated from high school in 1970.
Yeah. So
I'm planning to launch a space shuttle next month. Would you like to get in on the project?
If you set up a Kickstarter campaign, I will put at least $1 into that.
Maybe it can be a virtual space launch.
Well,
why were you going to China? What's in China for you?
I was just going to have to talk to a client. So, yeah. So, in my first time out there, I'd never been to China before, and it was. I don't know if you've been out there, but it was great. It was a good example of, in my mind, of bridging the gap between what you think something's going to be and what it actually is, and it made me realize. I feel like I'm a fairly modern, you know, worldly kind of guy most of the time. And I realized that, you know, I was going out to China with a bunch of antiquated expectations about what China was going to be. And it was the opposite. It's an amazing, amazing country, great food, great people. So, yeah. So
you are getting around the world in your self-employment gig.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even more so than I have previously. Like,
wait a minute. So what we're saying here is this started with open source, this community as a corporate asset, really.
Right.
That this is a big enough deal that people are willing to pay you and presumably others and fly all around the world.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, and part of the reason why I decided to do this, because before I, you know, when I was thinking about it, I was nervous about it. Like, is there enough business out there? I just don't know. Like when I was consulting on the side, there was always business. I was always doing something on the side. Right. But that's on the side, you know, and now I have a wife and a son and bills. But I think what's interesting is that if you look in particularly the last 5 years, the majority of organizations that are building software and services and whatever else has a social component. It has, you want people to use it, and gone are the days of asking people to subscribe to your newsletter and that's about it. You know, like we've gone from this way of engaging with your audience through broadcasting, through newsletters and email updates and this, that, and the other, to active, like how do we actually build a relationship? How do we build a real engagement with them? And that's right at the heart of what I've been doing for my entire career. So I'm a fairly optimistic kind of guy, and so I was expecting that we'd be okay. But also I'm, you know, when you're laid in bed at night, you're thinking, oh, is this going to work out? And so far, it's early days, but so far I've got tons of business. And
man, you're like famous, you know that?
I
You are, really. I mean, I've heard of you. My dog, Terry, she says you're a great guy. She would know. No, now I'm going to say something that leads to what you were just talking about. And this is just, it's boasting. It's just plain ego talking. A long time ago, there was a guy who said, news needs to stop being a monologue and become a dialogue.
Mm.
That someone was me.
Mm.
And some of the things that I did based on that thought were tagged by journalism professor Jay Rosen at New York University as being the origin of citizen journalism, which he basically blames on me. And at that time, there were newsrooms that had my face on the dartboard right next to Craig Newmark's. And somebody actually said, well, is this like a conspiracy you guys are in to ruin the newspaper business? Do you guys know each other? Well, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And
that would be the weirdest conspiracy ever. Like, you two guys.
Well,
I'd love to see the meetings. I'd love to see like the conspiracy meetings, the location, what you're eating, what you're drinking.
Oh, we had them. They were called. There were a whole bunch of new media meetings that that he and I both attended. Not as we weren't the instigators or the organizers. We Media was the big group.
Right.
We Media was the big group that sponsored these, and we'd inevitably go, and we went a lot because they were founded and funded heavily by Knight Ridder, as in Knight and Ridder newspapers, mostly now McClatchy, and their thing, Gary Kibble, who sponsored that, was in Miami,
right.
The old Miami Herald. So they were in Miami. So people like to go to Miami.
Yeah, I do.
And for me, it's a 3.5 hour drive. So I go,
Yeah.
I don't have to go in airplanes. Thinking of which, is there a way, have you tried? Look, I hate to say this. I don't envy you because I'm retired and work on the site.
Right.
I don't fly much. I like flying. I think flying is second only to space travel.
Right.
But I don't like sitting in pressurized aluminum tubes, and I don't like the airport crap. How do you put up with it? Are you burned out on it yet?
Not so much. I mean, to me, the thing I've learned is that travel is all about, this is going to sound a bit weird, but travel is all about the psychology that you have when you go into it. So, when you're happy and you're excited about the trip, it's a blast. You have a great time. Like, I've had some of the greatest experiences in my life when I've been on the road, meeting people and learning new cultures and,
no, I'm not this. I absolutely love that. I'm talking about the part from when you park or get dropped off at the airport.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
out of the airport at the other end.
That's the thing. Like, when I'm excited about a trip or when I'm eager for it, all that stuff just blends into the background. When I don't want to be traveling, or I just want to get home, every minute is emphasized. And I don't, you're probably the same as me, but most things in the world don't tend to bother me that much. I'm fairly relaxed. But then when I'm in a mood about something, when I'm not happy about something, and particularly when I'm traveling, every single person who I come into contact with will be an inconvenience. Everything will be a problem. And it'll be a silent problem. And like, if someone was to hear my internal monologue, I would never be hired again. Like, it's just absolute judgment about everybody. But I've also like just got my travel regimen down to like a bit of a science now. Like, you know, having TSA pre and global entry and carrying like rechargeable battery packs and, you know, and
you carry your own extension cord or power strip?
Yeah, got my own. Yeah.
Okay.
Best giveaway I've ever got was from O'Reilly. O'Reilly gave me this little travel power strip.
Yes, you got to have them. And
best freebie I've ever had. Yeah.
Oh, look here. That's an adapter for,
right.
You know, I have adapters, but yeah, the power strip. Man, the second I learned, which was almost immediate, that hotel rooms never have enough outlets or have them where you want them.
Yeah.
And then also, sitting in that airport waiting room, I have power.
Oh, when you're at the airport, like the thing I've discovered, like when I'm at the airport and I've got my little power strip thing, and I can plug my things in there and other people can plug their things in there as well. Yes. I am the king of the jungle.
Aren't you, though? Except for me, I'll plug my power, because everything is so low wattage. I can plug my power strip in. We can plug another 6 devices. Right. Let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
Battery life.
Right.
Remember laptops where 2 hours was considered good?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how battery life has come on, and also I love how battery life has come on specifically in Linux, because there's this period of time in like 2008, 2009, where you could get 12 hours on a Windows laptop, and on the same hardware you get 6 hours at best on Linux. So
yes,
our friends in the kernel community and in all the infrastructure community, they've served as well in helping to fix that. So
yes, I remember that as a disappointment. And yet, on the other hand, using a lightweight window manager, I seem to recall, on the average, getting more battery life with Linux than with Windows.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that was my choice of hardware. I don't know, because people say, well, it doesn't work with all my hardware. So that's silly. You don't run Mac on a Windows machine. You have to buy the hardware to match the operating system you're going to use.
That's why we're Linux. At least when I was buying laptops more regularly than I am now, I was like always buy Intel, and to this day I always buy Intel for Linux. Yeah, you can
right over here, except it's in pieces because I'm adding it Acer. It is the god-rottingest, hardest ever laptop in the world to add RAM. And I have it all apart. And I'm going to get some rubber cement to stick those little tiny, tiny screws on the screwdriver to put them in. With my terrible eyes nowadays, I'll drop them all. But let me ask you this, more rational. How did you find Linux? Did Linux find you while you were sitting on a park bench?
What happened was I was 18, so I'm 36 now, so however long that ago.
Half your life.
Right. My brother, I've got 2 brothers, and my brother Simon really got me into computers years ago. I did a bit of work experience with him. He used to work for a council, and he had these big like VAX machines that he used to manage and stuff like that. He gave me, like, my mum and dad bought him a computer, like a fairly expensive computer. It was an 8086 back in the early days, and he gave me when he didn't need it anymore. So he kind of helped me get into computers, and you know, I wanted to learn C when I was 14, and I went to night school and learned C and whatever else. But he moved to America. Well, he lived in America for a bit, and then he went back to England and came to stay with my parents and I when I was 18 for 2 weeks. And I was just screaming bloody murder about something that was going on with my computer. I was running Windows. And he said, why are you using a Mickey Mouse operating system like Windows? You should install Linux. I was like, what the hell is Linux? And I knew what Unix was. And I always associated Unix as being this really badass kind of operating system that big banks and like, this is like, you know, when I'd watch war games on rerun, I was always thinking,
Yes.
yeah, that's the kind of thing that Unix is in. And he said it's basically a free version of Unix. And what he said to me was, and you can download the code and build it yourself. And I was getting into programming, so I thought, that's cool. So I worked in a bookshop, part-time job when I was 18, and went and bought a copy of Slackware Unleashed, and it came with Slackware 96. And he installed it on my computer. And what was funny was, like, he had all kinds of issues getting it installed. He basically installed it on my computer while I was at school that day, and then he had to go off. I don't remember where he had to go, but he basically wrote down the username and the password on a Post-it note, stuck it on the screen. So I got home from school, Windows was gone, and it said Dark Star Login. And I was like, okay. And I've got a 600-page book to figure this stuff out. And I actually used it for about a week and just could not figure it out because nothing worked. Like I couldn't get online.
Yes.
The sound didn't work. My mouse didn't work. I had no X. Like, it was just a terminal. And so I was fascinated by it. And I read the first chapter in that book, and it talked about the community. And that's what really got me into community. But I couldn't figure out Linux. So I basically put Windows back on my machine after a week. But something kept niggling me because I was kept reading about the community aspect. And then I basically went to my girlfriend, because back then in England, you had to pay to get online. You had to pay 10 pence a minute. And my girlfriend's mum worked at university. So I went to her university and downloaded the latest version of Slackware on 40 floppy disks, and then went and reinstalled that on my machine. And from there, just kind of really got into it. And, it was around that time I started reading Slashdot. And it was around that time when I first read your stuff. And I started...
What's a Slashdot? Oh, I remember. Oh, yes, I'm joking.
Remember that thing?
Yeah.
So, and it's weird because back then, I started getting a bit starstruck by people like you and Alan Cox and Linus Torvalds, and I just thought, I want to be a part of this world. Like, this.
You need to grow a bigger beard, fella.
Well, this is abundantly true. So.
The joke was that I successfully made the transition from being general, every kind of stuff, normal local reporter, to doing IT, because with the big beard, I could just go into a room full of old Unix programmers, and I just,
right.
I was just another guy with a beer,
Right. It's weird. When I first moved to the US, my wife and my mother-in-law were dropping some hints about me shaving this thing off, because this little thing I've had on my chin for many years. And so I shaved it off. And when this isn't on my face, my head is perfectly round. Like, it looks ridiculous. My head is a ball without this on it. So
yeah, but here's the thing. I would tell you, this is not a computer. It's not relevant. But I would tell you that, number one, if I'm not in the Army, I don't shave. I've been in the Army. I shaved.
Right.
Number two, I have never met a woman worth taking up with or marrying unless I had a beard.
Right.
Not one. And I'm married, second time around. Had a practice wife, have a permanent wife. She likes me with a beard. She does. She doesn't like those hairless, oiled men.
I wasn't expecting the word hairless to enter our conversation, but we've now reached that level.
Well, something else kind of like that. I have a friend and a former coworker, a dear friend for many years.
I'm a little scared right now where this is going to
go. Who was and still is a very talented Unix programmer and sysadmin. And one day this friend, male friend, who was somewhat plump and wore blue jeans and T-shirts to work all the time, the standard uniform, came and said, I am going to become a woman.
Okay.
And I said, really? So you're going to stop being a plump Unix programmer who wears blue jeans and T-shirts to work as a man and become a plump Unix programmer who wears blue jeans and T-shirts to work as a woman? And who will care? The difference, So that was my first and still is transgendered friend. Just so I'll have you know, and we still love each other dearly. Okay, after
Hey,
many years.
live and let live, right? Live and let live. So,
Well, we do, but see, so that's how much I don't care. I stick, with my wife, and I run Linux and I run Windows, and I don't own a Mac. I'll bet you do, but I don't.
I do own a Mac. I'm what's the word? Homogeneous.
You're in California.
Yeah. So I have a Mac. I have Linux. I have no Windows. I do not have any Windows in my house.
I have one program I like that uses Windows, so I use it. It's an important program for me. Do you have stickers on your laptop?
I do have some stickers on my laptop.
Oh, good. Yes.
Yeah. So, although I'm thinking about removing them and sticking like a big decal thing on the front, but I don't know. I haven't.
My wife is a proponent of the big decals.
Yeah.
But I thought every time I ask somebody in California, they say, yes, I have stickers.
Yeah. The problem is that it depends on the laptop in my mind. Like my ThinkPad is absolutely rammed in stickers. It's also the size of a house. But then I have a MacBook Pro, which is my other machine, and stickers, because the Macs are like, they just look different. They're pretty nice looking hardware.
Yes, they are.
On a Mac just looks silly. It would be like sticking stickers on a Lexus.
They're all over the place. There's lots of Macs with stickers on them.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what. Yeah. So for me, and I know this art is in the eye of the beholder, but like, it's like stickers on the back of a car. Stickers on the back of a Prius is fine because lots of people drive Priuses and lots of people stick stickers on them. If you just stick a sticker on a McLaren F1, it would look weird.
What if I have my campaign sticker, which says Obi-Wan Kenobi, only he can save us.
Asteroid 2016.
Aside from the joking, and people watching this, in case you hadn't figured this out, neither of us are overly serious people, and that's what keeps us going. But Jono, here's the thing.
Yeah.
All right, so are you still working entirely in tech, or are you starting to get community nibbles outside of tech?
It's a mixture. My bread and butter is definitely technology. It's not as specific to open source as it used to be. So, I'm working with security companies, data companies, hardware companies, some gaming, but I'd like to broaden it out. The thing that I learned from going to XPRIZE particularly was there is a huge amount of inherent intrinsic knowledge about what community is in the open source world, and it's just transitioning that outside is hard, and it takes time. When I was at XPRIZE, I was there for nearly 2 years. And I spent most of that time just. The organization didn't really know anything about community. No one's fault. It's just that wasn't their background. And it took a long time to just kind of like build up the momentum there around that. And that's hard to do as a consultant. So, I think there's lots we can do there. And that's something I want to focus on in the next year is kind of bridging that gap.